When most people think about heroes, they don't think about them doing things like destroying foes' bodies at the molecular level, using parasitic insects to fight for them, invading their opponent's psyche, or fighting with a body that's been transformed into a puppet. But in the world of Naruto, what matters isn't so much what the jutsu looks like, but who's using it and why. Naruto heroes with villainous jutsu prove that morality is more complicated than it looks. Everyone knows that Naruto Uzumaki is a hero, but the damage his Rasen Shuriken can do is life-ruining. Meanwhile, Yugo is just about the nicest person in the world, but he can't even exist in society because his sage transformation turns him into a raging monster. Also, did you guys realize that Shizune, a medical ninjutsu expert, also breathes poison? Vote up the Naruto heroes whose jutsu seems the most villainous. Number 1. There's nothing inherently villainous about wood release. It's a powerful technique that lets the generate and control wooden structures and can even subdue the tailed beasts. It's the first Hokage's signature technique and is considered the pride of Konoha. But the reason Yamamoto has the technique in the first place is one of the most disturbing events to ever happen in Naruto history. He was the sole survivor of an experiment that claimed the lives of 59 other children. Led by Orochimaru, this experiment was meant to replicate Hashirama's abilities, possibly creating a body that Orochimaru could transfer his own soul into later. No shade to Yamamoto, who did nothing but be victimized, but the chilling backstory makes it hard to feel happy about his abilities. Number 2. Naruto has always had a whole host of potentially dangerous techniques at his fingertips. That's what happens when you have a tailed beast sealed into your body. But the one that can really be called villainous isn't a tailed beast technique. Instead, it's Rasen Shuriken. Using this wind release move, Naruto launches a shuriken-shaped Rasengan at his opponent, which doesn't just hit them, it pierces every cell in their body. Obviously, such extreme damage is potentially fatal, but even if the target survives, they may never be able to work as a ninja again. That's because Rasen Shuriken disconnects the chakra circulatory system, destroying their ability to use form and mold chakra. This is impossible to heal, even with the most advanced healing jutsu. Number 3. Shadow Jutsu has been the cornerstone of the Nara clan for generations. While it's mostly used for good, it has terrifying potential. Shikamaru and his fellow clan members can control other people by attaching their own shadows to that of their chosen target. This might not sound horrible, but being able to control another person's actions is not only inherently invasive, but it's also an easy way to force someone to hurt themselves or even take their own life. What's more, Shikamaru can use moves like Shadow, neck binding technique to straight up choke out his opponents with his shadow. Less invasive but no less creepy or violent. Number 4. Ino Yamanaka inherited her clan's signature jutsu, the mind-body switch technique. She projects her consciousness into a target's mind, and then uses their body to do whatever she wants. She can also rifle through their minds and read their memories and thoughts. Ino is never really shown contemplating the questionable morality of overriding another person's bodily autonomy and invading the mind, but it also doesn't seem like she exploits it to mess with people either. At least, not as an adult. Childhood skirmishes with her friends don't count. Number 5. Depending on your perspective, the Abarame clan's signature moves are either very cool or very creepy. Shortly after birth, clan members are infested with insects called Kikaichu. In exchange for a share of their chakra, the insects will obey their host's commands and fight on their behalf. While the symbiosis is pretty cool, a guy shooting streams of bugs at people doesn't exactly scream hero. Number 6. When Anko Mitarashi was young, she studied under Orochimaru. At first, she didn't fully understand how evil he was, and was simply interested to learn what he had to teach. That's how she mastered creepy moves like Hidden Shadow Snake Hands, which lets her summon snakes from the inside of her sleeve that can be used in combat. Anko was also the first person to survive receiving Orochimaru's curse mark. Fearing that she would be unable to control it if she used it, she suppressed the mark until she was able to have it removed. Number 7. The third Tsuchikage is able to perform the only known Kekai Toda, dust release. This technique lets him create a shape with both hands that can surround a target's body. Anyone or anything unlucky enough to be caught inside of it will be absolutely destroyed down to their very molecules. It's one hell of a useful attack, but it's one that's nearly impossible to use without a fatal outcome. Guess you don't get to be the Tsuchikage without taking a few lives. Number 8. Yugo is a genuinely nice person who wants nothing more than to live peacefully. Unfortunately for him, he's forced to live an isolated life. That's because of his clan's most powerful jutsu, Sage Transformation. In most cases, Sage Transformation is a manageable power boost. In Yugo's case, he's constantly absorbing Sage energy, which eventually builds up and causes him to go on a rampage. Even though he just wants peace, he has no choice but to be violent. The only person who was ever able to suppress his rages was Sasuke, but Sasuke has his own life to live, and did not stay by Yugo's side. Number 9. Most of Shizune's moves revolve around healing. That's only natural, after all, she's a medical ninjutsu expert and Tsunade's right-hand woman. But Shizune also has a move that seems like the exact opposite of that, Poison Mist. By converting her chakra into a special chemical, she's able to breathe out poisonous mist. This mist is so dangerous that it can instantly obliterate anyone who breathes it in. Number 10. Kodayamatsu is the ultimate gaslighting technique. It's a genjutsu that allows the user to thoroughly manipulate a person's memories and beliefs so that they think they made a decision on their own. Shisui typically used this move for good, but there's a reason why villains like Danzo wanted to get their hands on it. Number 11. There's a good reason that the dead demon consuming seal technique is a kinjutsu, and that's because it's horrifying. By summoning a Shinigami, the user can pull a person's soul out of their body and trap them in the Shinigami's belly for eternity. The cost is the user's own life, they will suffer the same fate, and will have to spend their afterlife locked in combat with their foe. The main person seen trying to use this move is the third Hokage, Hiruzen Sarutobi. He uses it to stop Orochimaru from destroying Konoha, but it doesn't quite work. He only manages to seal Orochimaru's arms, and he still has to pay with his life. Number 12. Sasuke has vacillated between villain and hero several times throughout the series, so it's only appropriate that some of his techniques follow suit. Perhaps the best example of this is Amaterasu, a Mangekyo Sharingan move that's literally referred to as the Flames of Hell. It creates black flames that will never stop burning unless Sasuke stops them himself. They're as hot as the sun, and they can eat through any material. Number 13. Without looking too closely at the details, Kankuro's puppet technique is already pretty devastating. The puppets he controls can eviscerate, burn, poison, and otherwise destroy his targets in a plethora of ways. But it gets worse, many of the puppets he controls are made from human bodies. While most of them were gifts from Sasori, he's still controlling the bodies of once living people, including Sasori's own body. Number 14. It's hard to call someone who tortures people for a living a hero, but since he does it for the sake of Konoha, he counts. But you wouldn't know it from some of his jutsu. They're perfect for the job, but they're bone-chilling. The scariest ones allow him to summon either a torture chamber or an Iron Maiden. He combines these horrible weapons with his extensive knowledge of human psychology and interrogation techniques to get whatever information he needs. Let's just ignore the fact that whether or not torture actually produces useful information is highly controversial. Number 15. Gaara might be a good guy now, but everyone saw what kind of horrors he was capable of when he was originally introduced as a villain. One of the scariest moves he pulls off is Sand Coffin, and its follow-up move, Sand Waterfall Funeral. The first move involves encasing his foe in sand. Sometimes, he'll simply let them suffocate. Sometimes, he'll crush all the bones in their body and drench the sand in blood. His current techniques aren't quite so brutal, but he still pulls out the harsher stuff when he has to. Do you agree with our lists, or did we miss something? Write it down in the comment section. Also, don't forget to subscribe.